best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we get the ball, like helmets, class to the top. You can see helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, fourth place, fifth place, 16, 20. So many helmets, got blurred vision, we got too many. They got us fucked up. Army, we good. We play Jones to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just drop. We lock and load and fall. One at a time. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires really building how well we're not competition. There's always no more bad sure. More next, yeah.
All right, what's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, a.k.a. The Geek from DFS Army. Today, we're taking a look at the NASCAR Kansas Buschy McBusch 400 race. From a DraftKings and FanDuel fantasy perspective, I'm coming off a big win in Talladega last week, so I'm feeling good. Feeling on point with the NASCAR. Even the ring is excited to get started with the breakdown. So feeling good, feeling on point with the NASCAR. And we got a really different race this week than we had last week. Last week we had the restrictor plates. This week we've got a 1.5 mile sort of classic track with tire wear. Now, what does this all mean? This is really, really important. Just the basics. Like, now, I'm not a... How would I put this? You know, I don't have years of experience watching or looking at NASCAR, understanding it in that way. And yet I've had a lot of success in DFS because the team over at DFS Army is so sharp with the breakdowns, the projections, the picks, all of that stuff. So, but I always get started with a few basics on each track. I try to understand, is this the kind of track where the scrubs are in play? Is it a carnage track, as I like to say? Or is it a non-carnage track where the best cars are going to make it through? So, on the DFS Army research station, which I have open in front of me, we have a few tools to kind of figure this stuff out. So that's where I always get started. This race is actually really interesting in addition because we come off Talladega and because there's no qualifying, so many of the studs are starting in the back that it's going to get really, really interesting in terms of putting it all together. I'll go over that. But the main thing is to get started, the first thing I look at is DraftKings average by start. This is the DK average by start tab on the DFS Army research station. And this is where all the real important information is gleaned. So the first thing I look at is just general average scores by starting position for this particular track. And again, this changes dramatically based on what kind of track we're looking at. So it's really important to understand this going in, because then we'll understand which drivers we can unfriend in the domination station. So getting started, you can see here that in averages by starting position, drivers starting first through fifth, 41 fantasy points, 6th through 10th, 29.9, 28.7. It gradually goes down until you get those back drivers who are scoring the lowest fantasy points, 18.8. What this indicates, because that's the exact opposite of what Talladega looked like last week. So it's really important to emphasize this. What this is telling us is this is not the kind of a track where the scrubby drivers come into play and make for good plays. To further sort of push that narrative, you can go by, you could take a look at averages by driver rating. So once again, this will show the best drivers down to the scrubs and see who's scoring the best. And again, very clearly, the best drivers do really well here. Your middlings do well. And as you drop down to the bottom of the barrel here, the 70 down to 40 or below, you get these drivers generally not scoring well. Okay, so again, we've got now two hints of what type of drivers we want to target here. And it looks to be elite ones, not a track where you want to load up on scrubs and hope for carnage. At least that's what that's telling us. Again, we can look at a different version of this breakdown where it shows averages by starting position for studs. So in this one, we're looking at, all right, if a stud, where these top drivers, studs, 90 plus drivers rating, fall, where do they score? And yes, we want those studs starting in the back. So once again, this is just showing that, yes, your best drivers are going to score really well. And as a matter of fact, in this one, it's also emphasizing, and this is very logical, that a good driver starting in the back with the place diff is going to score incredibly well here. It looks like pole sitters do pretty well, or drivers starting up front do just fine. You've got this kind of dead zone between 6 and 15, and we'll see that again this time, where in this case, if you're a stud and you start between 6 and 15, and we have a bunch of those guys, what ends up happening is, unless you lead laps, you're probably not going to be in the nuts, because these guys who are starting further back and getting more place differential points tend to take up those spots. So far, pretty standard stuff for what we see for 1.5 mile tracks in NASCAR, where we want to kind of avoid the turds. They're probably going to fall behind a bunch of laps. And I mean, we can keep going through it, but average by in the scrub zone, even the scrubs, no matter where you see them starting, they don't score well. So these guys, sub 50 season-long driver rating, they don't score well, which tells you that you probably want to stick with worst-case scenario middling drivers, ideally middling drivers, as your salary savers that are starting further back. Perfect world. Seems logical, but that's not how it worked for Talladega last week. So it's important to understand the differences. Which two drivers am I locking in personal? Let's get to the research. Part of what I'm doing here is live research together, because I'm going to make my lineups too based on a lot of what we glean in this breakdown. If I had to, you want to talk about all-in drivers, Austin Cindric's probably going to be an all-in driver for me, but let's get to it. Let's get to the breakdown. So take a look at the cheat sheets. I'm trying to see if I have anything else up here that I want to show right off the bat. No. So we'll get to the cheat sheets, but the first thing I like to show is the Domination Station Optimizer, because we have some important pieces of information in here. We have it on the research station as well, but it's right in here. Ownership projections. Why do I use ownership projections? Because they're telling you who the best plays are straight up. When you see high projected ownership, that guy is probably the best play. All right. Who's the highest projected owned player on the slate? Austin Cindric. Why? Because he's starting 38th. And again, we talked about the scrub zone. We don't want to go all the way down to the scrub zone. Austin Cindric's a little scrubby too, to be quite honest. Good driver from Xfinity. He's just starting out in his NASCAR Cup Series sort of world. But what's interesting here is he's starting 38th. He's 6,700. He's a great salary saver. And will he push past the rest of the scrubs? Probably. So let's say worst case scenario for Austin Cindric is he drives the whole race, assuming he doesn't crash, and he makes his way to 25th. Okay. So at 25th, he's going to get you 13 place differential points, maybe 18 or so fantasy points, 17. I don't have the tool open for it. You get you about a 28, 29. It's a pretty safe, not a great score. If he could sneak up into the top 20, he could do a little bit better. Let me see if I can open up our tool for this. We have a really, really awesome tool, our Nilly tool for this. You know what? I'm going to open that up because I want to show you this, how to sort of do this calculation really quick. All right. So let me put this up on screen here. Ooh, what the hell is that? That's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. Okay. So let's take a look at it, right? Austin Cindric. He's starting 38th. So here's one of the cool things we could do. If he finishes 25th, what's he going to score? 32 DraftKings points. That's a safe expectation for a driver like Austin Cindric, and I don't expect him to get any fast laps or lead laps. He's not a very good driver, but he should drive past the scrubs, and he could. This is a safe play. So how much of Austin Cindric do you want? That's a good question, but without many salary savers, this is a strong consideration. He gets you 32 points. Be great if he happens to squeak up to 22nd. 38 points. Ooh, wow, that's great. So that's the consideration with a driver like Cindric. That's why he's going to be the highest owned. I think he's actually quite a very good play. At the top of the list, we've got Larson, Logano, Truex as the highest owned guys. And then we run into a zone of all interestingly salaried guys. Kevin Harvick, for example, shouldn't be here. So let's go through it one by one. I'm going to start at the top here because the second important component is where is the driver starting. So right off the bat, we've got a really interesting setup for this race where you've got kind of these mediocre types starting up towards the front, a couple of studs in Keselowski, maybe in Harvick, but haven't done great this season. And then you've got a lot of sort of mediocres, Michael McDowell. Wait, I'm going to save a little something for McDowell. I got a little something special for you guys planned. The unfriend zone. We're going to get to the unfriend zone in a minute because there's a big unfriend zone on this slate. We're going to get to that. Stick around. You're going to like it. All right, but when we're looking at it, just an overview again, you've got Keselowski and Harvick, semi-studs here starting up around the top, and Ryan Blaney. They're all in this weird zone of starting towards the top of the race, Keselowski on the pole. I'm not a pole sitter player. I almost always fade the pole sitter in every race. This particular track, I will be fading the pole sitter as well. If he does well and I lose because of it, okay. It's kind of a thing I do. I pretty much always fade the pole sitter. It's worked out for me. Don't tell everybody about that strategy, though. Keep it to us. Keep it to just us. So I always fade the pole sitter. So you've got some semi-studly names. Here's an interesting one. Kyle Busch starting at 9th, 8,600. Oh, how the mighty hath fallen. The salary has come down. Unfriend zone. So you get a lot of these kind of junk drivers as well starting up towards the top, which is really interesting. And a lot of this is because I'm assuming they're just slotting it the way they finished in Talladega. I don't really know. Yeah, I mean, I don't actually know what the hell's going on here in terms of why they're starting where they are. But what's important to know is there have been a couple of drivers who have been particularly good with this package this season. The Hendrick cars, according to our notes, and I'm just going to go through actually Brady's notes because he's a million times sharper than I am when it comes to breaking down the drivers, and we'll go through that. But I just want to show the overview that here you've got Truex starting 15th, Chase Elliott 17th. You've got Denny Hamlin, who's been smashing all season, starting 20th. And you've got some other studs as you go back. Alex Bowman, really good at this track. Kurt Busch starting 28th, also really good at this track. Logano at 29th. And, of course, Chalk Larson starting 32nd. So this is an unusual setup where there's a lot of studs who have potential to both dominate and have place differential points. Kyle Larson has absolutely dominated this package this season. He's had the best car by far, so he's going to be the chalkiest of this group, and he's also starting the furthest back. He's also the most expensive. He should be the chalkiest of the group. Should be. Makes sense. That's an overview, right? So a really interesting setup where you have all of these studs starting far back. These are the guys you want to play. We could probably fade a lot of this. And then we're gonna have to find a few cheapies to make it work and show how we're going to cycle through some of these stud names, because essentially what we're looking for, big race, a lot of laps. Let's actually go back here to Neely's Tools. 267 laps, lots of dominator points up for grabs. Yeah, I got a lot of Haley too. I don't like it. Where are you? I got a lot of Haley too. The first time I ran the Dom station for this race, don't like it. So he's starting 31st. I get it. He's got a projection. If you notice here, I put a limit on him. I don't want to have too much of a driver like this. It looks like he's projected to be on about 15%. He's a crap driver. He's just a level above the really, really crap drivers. But even starting 31st, I don't think it's a tournament-winning play to have a lot of Haley. Remember, what the Dom station is doing is giving mean projections, average projections. This isn't like a ceiling situation. You're getting a lot of Reddick. He's a guy I also very much don't like and don't want to use. So understand, you play these a guy who's cheap, who has like a decent, you're going to get a lot of that. That's why we got to go to the unfriend zone. All right, you know what? Let's go to the unfriend zone.
I unfriend you. 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 I unfriend you.
I unfriend you. Let's go to the unfriend zone, guys. All right. Who are we unfriending? Let's start with the scrubs. I'm gonna sort this by salary. We're going to the unfriend zone right away. Going to the unfriend zone. If you just let the domination station do its thing, it's going to stuff those studs in the lineups because they're projected so well, because they're going to score well. You just can't squish them all in there. So what it wants to do is grab the turds all the way down to, I guess Fefo deserves to not, maybe, I guess you don't unfriend this guy, at 4,500. If he just hangs around, I'm going to refriend him. But at 4,500, if Alfredo just hangs around 22nd place, 4,500, so cheap. If he just hangs around there, Alfredo. I want to do a Godfather, Fredo. I know it was you, but I can't do that. I don't have it. I know it was you, Fredo. Let's say he finishes 22nd. He just is able to hang around the same spot. He's going to score 22 fantasy points. Is that good? No. Does he have much of a chance of getting above? Does he have much of a chance of getting better than 22nd? No. As a matter of fact, I think he's got a much better chance of finishing like 28th. And how many points can he get you? He gets you to 10 points. It's not sexy. I don't think I want him. You know what? Don't allow too much of that either. Maybe allow yourself, 2 or 3% exposure max on this thing. All right. Justin Haley, he's borderline and unfriend you.
I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you.
You don't want him. But if you want to get a little bit, 10%, he's cheap, whatever. I'm even going down. I'm going down 10%. Fuck that guy. Okay. Some of the turds that I don't, Ryan Priest, normally my guy every single week. I love Ryan Priest.
I'd unfriend you.
It's a no. Starting 12th, too high. Michael McDowell, guy we love to roster every single week. Love Michael McDowell. Starting 3rd.
I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you.
Man, hell no. The fuck out of my lineup, motherfucker. Get out. I'm not playing him. Okay. The unfriend zone. You like that technology, guys? That's what took the extra half an hour, because I was going to start at 11:30. I'm slow. I'm not the best with the tech. Can somebody pull that and get me a little MP3 that I can upload so I don't have to go over to YouTube? And
I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you.
Got to unfriend some people. All right. So how do we make lineups work this week? And again, we're going to get to the breakdown, driver-specific breakdowns. I'm trying to run through this at a reasonable pace here. We've got rid of all of these turds, guys. Don't fucking play the turds. We don't need the research station shows that the turds are no good in this one. Believe the research tools. It's not a carnage race. Could carnage happen? Sure. Will it happen? Probably not. Doesn't mean your driver that you go all in on won't crash. He definitely will. But in general, there won't be a lot of carnage. If you load up on Austin Cindric, he's probably crashing. That's just how NASCAR works. All these guys are doing it. Everybody's doing this to me now. Kevin?
I'd unfriend you.
Don't talk about my drivers. Don't talk about my drivers.
Unfriend you.
Sorry, guys. I'm just pointing out reality. That's just how it goes in DFS. You fucking load up on Paul George with Kawhi Leonard out. He goes 2 for 18. Scores 12 fantasy points. Thanks, Paul George. All right, some other drivers. All right, now that we've done the unfriend zone, there's a couple other guys you could probably unfriend. I'm just going to say, listen, Byron, I'm not going to unfriend you, but GPP only, Di Benedetto, GPP only, Austin Dillon, GPP only, Cole Custer starting 10th, Reddick starting 11th. These are not good spots. Reddick, I guess you could play a little bit of. He's got an okay projection. He's been pretty good on this type of track. Bubba, no. Unfriend you. Newman's been pretty decent. A lot of these guys can be unfriended as well. Donnie Briscoe, not a good spot. Not a good spot. We got to play some turds, though, so we'll see how it goes. Let's take a look at the notes we have from my man, Brady. So now we're going to just take a look driver by driver at some of these studs and understand who and why. Okay, so Kyle Larson, core play, tons of dominator potential, 5-star rating, hard pressed to keep Larson out of your action this week, even priced this high. He starts 32nd and has been the most consistent 1.5er this year. I like him as a threat to dominate late in the race. Okay. Larson starting 32nd. How do you not play him? Logano starting 29th. Logano's not so much of a dominator as like a Larson. So if I have to choose between these two, I'm going to lean Larson here. There's three guys really that stand out the most. Denny Hamlin is the third. He's starting 20th. Denny's just been money this season. He's a little better on the specialty tracks than he is on the standard 1.5 mile ovals. But he's won a bunch of this race in the past. Larkin or Brady is picking him to win this race. The whole slate will be won and lost in these top three spots. 11, 5, 22 would be my ranking. See, fucking Brady thinks that we know the driver numbers. Like, 11, 5, and 22. Yeah, 11's Denny, 5 is... I don't know the fucking driver numbers. Think I memorized it? Now I got to go look. Number 5 is Kyle Larson. 11 is Hamlin. 22 is Logano. See, I needed to look it up. I don't memorize the numbers. From Brooklyn. We don't have NASCAR. I learned this shit playing DFS. All right. Chase Elliott, stud, starting 17th. Hasn't been that great this year. Okay. Middling play. You got Alex Bowman starting 25th. He's part of that Hendrick. So, I mean, there's a theme here. The Hendrick cars have been really, really good this year. Larson, the best. Bowman's actually been a little better than Chase Elliott in some ways. He's starting a little further behind. So Bowman gets a core, 4.5 stars. Here we go. Hendrick machines are better than ever. He's got him inside the top 5. Martin Truex, we know Martin Truex. He's a stud, starting 15th. He's been pretty good this year. So, he's been winning races too. You just mix him in. How do you know which one's going to win? I don't fucking know. The best way to do it is you mix them in. You get a little bit of this one. Get different combos. How do I fit them? We got to get the middling guys in to make it work. That's how it works. So, Blaney starting kind of high up. He's a GPP play. He could win. That's how these races go. Some random guy takes the lead and holds it, and you're like, oh, shit, I wish I played Ryan Blaney. He didn't stand out. He's going to be low-owned. That's the kind of play, you get a little bit of exposure to. Kurt Busch, I really like. He's been good here, and he's a little expensive, but he's starting 28th. He's much better play on FanDuel, where the pricing is just ridiculously low on Kurt Busch. I'm looking at the DraftKings breakdown. I got to focus these on one or the other, guys. We have FanDuel rankings as well, and Kurt Busch is very much a core play over on FanDuel. Larkin crushes these notes, so for the FanDuel stuff, here are your core plays. Similar group, but note the difference here. Just very cheap, like Bowman and Busch, just massively underpriced on FanDuel, and Larson. They're all underpriced, but FanDuel's is like softer pricing this week, by the way, and always. So make sure that you don't forget about the fact that NASCAR exists on FanDuel. And big shout out to my boy Gutsman, who took second, 10K last week on FanDuel in the big race. Gutsman, well done, my man. All right, as we continue down the list, so you see Kyle Busch, really interesting. All right, we'll go up a little bit more here. So Kurt Busch, very nice, very playable, 9,300. Kevin Harvick starting 4th. Again, GPP only situation. If this ownership is correct, it's really off in my opinion. But you want to get a little Harvick in case. He's been shit this year, but you get a little Harvick exposure just in case. He's pretty cheap. But again, these type of guys, beware. If he leads the race, great. But when you have Larson and Hamlin and these guys coming from the back of the field, it's really going to, if one of those guys leads the race, they're going to be in the nuts, and these guys won't. If they don't, and one of these guys takes the lead, Kevin Harvick can very much. Byron can do it. Any one of these guys can do it. GPP only. This is where you mix a little bit in. Low ownership play. I'm actually surprised at some of the ownership numbers. I don't necessarily think I'm in agreement, like, for example, that Harvick will have this much, but people do like to play the guys starting up front. Just note that they need to lead massively in order to be in there. So that's not where I'm going to focus my, I usually get like a little bit. I try to mix them in, use the Dom station, allow a little sprinkle. I'll show you the Dom station run at the end here. Almirola, not much for me here. SHR team struggles. Haven't been great. Not a great track for Almirola. That's when Almirola usually busts out, though. But the problem here is he's not priced cheap enough. Starting 18th. There's too many good drivers in the zone. Ricky Stenhouse also priced up a little bit. Starting 23rd. Not bad. I'm more concerned about the pricing. Christopher Bell, elite equipment. Starting 8th. Not a really good play either. Eric Jones, I don't know if I agree here with Brady, but Brady, knows better than I do. He's starting 27th, which I like. He's been very good this season overall. He's in the Richard or the Petty car. It's not as good as what he's been in the past. I'm not in love with the $700-800 price tag here. A little spendy for me for what is a low-level driver. DiBenedetto, Austin Dillon, these guys are unfriend you situations. These are, 1.5 star, really bad. Tyler Reddick, again, not so great. Starting 11th, hasn't been that great this year. The best thing going on with him is this very cheap salary. All of this is unfriend zone. Okay, all of it. You might have to squeeze one of these guys in there, one of these turds in there to sort of make a lineup work, but hopefully not too much of that. Same thing with Tyler Reddick. I mean, he can hang around and finish 10th. He's a good driver, and this isn't one of those tracks that like challenge these drivers, but he hasn't been that good this year, so beware. That's not the way I'd like to go. Now, the first player we want, or the first driver we want a ton of is Austin Cindric. He's a core play. Totally makes sense. Starting 38th, got a decent car. Experience, not that important in this kind of track. This is like the most standard generic track ever. So doesn't matter. You get a guy who's not terrible. He's starting 38th. He'll pass all the turds. He'll pass the carnage plays. No matter what happens, you get 10% of the drivers that are going to crash anyway. So you figure 4 or 5 drivers won't finish the race for whatever reason. He'll get ahead of those guys. He'll get ahead of the turds. He'll wind up, we already showed it. He can get about 25th, 24th, get you 32, 34 fantasy points. That's great. As long as he stays upright, he's going to be a really good play. And so Killer Cam, you asked about like all in place. This for me, if I'm making 20 lineups, I just hit the lock button on it. And I'm just gonna lock it in for 20. He's gonna be chalk. It's good chalk, I think, to eat. If you want it to be Mr. Contrarian, Bobby Clinks is probably in here somewhere. Maybe Bobby Clinks be like, I'm not playing him. I don't know. I don't know if even that would go in this case, because again, he's a cheaper driver starting in the back in a track where there is a lack of salary relief. I'd much rather play a lot of him than I would having to put Fefo Alfredo or those type of guys. There's another guy though I do like down here. Here you go, Chris Buescher. He's a perfect example of a driver that I kind of like. So you got Cindric, Ross Chastain. Brady's not a fan of Chastain, but I like Chastain here. He's pretty decent driver. 24th overall. Fine by me. Fine by me. Suarez starting 21st. Again, it's a lack of value here. I kind of like Buescher. He's been pretty good about just hanging around where he starts in these type of races. He's good at the 1.5 mile tracks. I think he's better than a scrub. He's priced like a scrub. So just that alone, start 16th. He might not hold 16th place, but if he does, if he holds 16th place and just, Really? You're going to do this to me right now? Here we go. Okay. If he holds 16th place, finish 16th. Okay. How do you do? 28 points. It's like, is it great? No. Let's say he finishes 18th. You know, if he finishes 15th, 30 points. All right, that's pretty good. But if he finishes 18th, 24. Borderline play. But I don't think you're going to get a lot of high scores from the scrub zone. So these levels are fine. So you could play some Chris Buescher. Don't go crazy with it. Dangerous play, starting 16th on a scrub. Donnie Briscoe, also kind of scrubby. And then we get to the unfriend zone. The only one, Colo. That's my dude. Why? So Ryan Preece, normally my guy, starting 12th, no good. Unfriend you. Michael McDowell, I unfriend you. Right? He's a good driver too, but not starting third. He's definitely going backwards. So who do we have? All unfriend zone, uncheck you, go fuck yourself. All we've got left is Colo. Love me some Colo, starting 26th. First of all, last week before Talladega, I think it was Colo who led me to the win. Last week before Talladega, I did a meme of me and Colo from Brokeback Mountain. I was like, I can't quit you because I play Colo every single week. Even when he's bad, I just play him. I can't quit him. I'm telling you. Jake Gyllenhaal. He's my Jake Gyllenhaal from Brokeback Mountain. Never seen that movie, though. Fairness. I've just seen the memes, but somebody's like, I never saw that movie. I'm like, you think I saw that fucking movie? I haven't seen that movie either. But I saw the memes. I can't quit you. That's me and Colo. So I like him. Starting 26th. I do not unfriend him. Now, you can take a look at some of the other notes. They're all very similar this week. Larson, Bowman is core plays. And you've got, your value guys. I guess Newman. Here we go. Keep Newman on the list. Stream value, Austin Cindric. Here's some of these guys, and you've got your fades, the unfriend zone here. So a few different sets of notes, but they're all pretty much in agreement on who the studs are, who some of these middling plays are, and who the duds are. Now, real quick, we always talk about setting the domination station. How do I get it set up this week, right? How many dominators? Killer Cam wants to lock in Hamlin and Buescher. Okay. You want to make your stand there? That's fine. Take your stand. Have a reason for it. Whatever it is. I'm very much an advocate. If you guys are making just 20 lineups, I'm an advocate of locking in at least 2 drivers that you're going all in on. It's great when 2 stand out a lot. A good way to figure it out is just, again, who's projected to score the most. That helps. Like, Cam, I don't know if I'd lock in on Buescher. I like Buescher, but I don't know if that'd be the guy I'd lock in on because we just showed if he needs to finish top 10, he could do it though. So he could take you there and he's cheap. But he's got to be in that top 18 to have a chance of being in the nuts. So keep it in mind. But he usually is. He's a good driver. All right, so let's say I'm running 100 lineups. First question a lot of people ask is, how many dominators should I set? I'm going to tell you, don't use this. You do not need dominator settings this week, and I'm going to tell you why. If you look at the dominator group, the top starters, Keselowski, Byron, Harvick, DiBenedetto, Austin Dillon, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch. If those are your dominant, I'm comfortable with lineups that have none of those guys. As a matter of fact, I'd probably do at most 1 if I had to use any sort of a rule here. So the rule I'm going to use is a kind of unusual rule, at most 1, meaning I'm very happy to have none of them. But if I'm getting any of these guys, I don't want more than 1. Why? Because for one of these guys to outscore a lot of the studs that are coming up from the back, they not only have to hang around the front, but they have to dominate the race and probably win. So, like, sure, if Keselowski dominates this race, 267 laps, he leads 150 of them, he is 100% going to be in the nuts, no matter what else happens there. Again, it's not even a carnage race. Probably not going to get these guys crashing. So if he dominates the race and hangs around there, great. He's going to be in there. But if he's doing that, then what the fuck is Willie Byron doing? You know, he's not dominating also. Like, it's not going to be Keselowski and Byron 1-2 the whole race with Harvick. You know, there are all these studs coming up from the back that are going to threaten those guys. So if you think that you want to go crazy contrarian, you know, more than one dominator, because you'd have to be nuts to play two of these guys. But there are scenarios, I guess, where if Blaney and Keselowski switch off dominating this race and none of those other guys work out, sure. My point is, I definitely don't want to force any of these dominators into my lineups because there are so many drivers coming from the back, and it's very easy to pass here. A good car will get to the front really quickly. So, like, if you'll see, we'll figure out early who has the best equipment. And it could be anybody. It could be Bowman. Could be Hamlin. We're going to find out. We don't know. So part of the way we want to set up our lineups is to mix it up. Again, we want to open up the space with the turds and then mix it up on the stud zone because we don't know which stud is going to lead the race. So on first run, I've made just some basic adjustments, and you're kind of seeing how things are going. Getting a lot of Chris Buescher, actually. Colo, way too much Reddick. It's trying to force in these cheap guys because it wants to play a lot of these different studs. So Kevin Harvick, I don't like. So I'm going to have to do a lot of adjustments to sort of make this spit out lineups in such a way that I'm going to like it. Now, I said before, I don't mind going all in on Austin Cindric in this race. I really don't. I don't mind it. I think it's, I know he's a young driver and whatever, but I just like the guy starting that far back. I wish he was a little less bad. But maybe he is a little less bad, and maybe we don't know it. So here he is all the way down here. I'm going to smash a like on him, right? Now, I'm going to start to adjust my lineups. I'm just showing you kind of the early process. If you guys have questions about the race still, hit me. But right now, I'm going to show you the early process of how I set up my lineups for the Dom stage because I got to set my shit up. I didn't go after. I didn't max out the main tournament this week. I did some entries in the $4 and the $5 and some of the cheaper contests. I didn't max out the 15. I just didn't. I wasn't really sure. I'm not sure why I didn't. I just didn't. Did these other ones. I don't know. So I said before, I don't really like Kevin Harvick that much in this one. So, but he could win. So I'm going to give him a 5% max. Kyle Busch, he's fine. Interesting contrarian play, but hasn't been that great. I like his price. Pretty cheap. You know what? I'm going to leave him alone. Tyler Reddick, starting 11th. That's not a guy I want a ton of. Let's go. I like the price. You can go 20%. I'm going to just set some limits on some of these guys. Polo, can't quit you. You know you're my boy, but you know I'm not going 55% on you. So a lot of people say like the Dom station gave me. Yeah, because you're getting the studs for cheaper, and they're just popping because they're stud drivers for a little bit cheaper. But you know, how much of that do you need? So this is where you start to make your adjustments. By the way, I was getting to a point of a lot of people say the Dom station gave me. The Domination station is the most customizable and adjustable tool that exists in the DFS industry. Nothing gives you more power and more control as the user. And this is on purpose. All right. This is on purpose. No optimizer gives you this much control. And we do that because I don't believe in the optimizer gave me. I don't believe in that. You gave you. The optimizer spits out mean projections, and it's going to jam in cheap guys in order to fit studs that are projected really well, especially in a race like this where there's so many studs projected well. So what it's going to want to do is go to the unfriend zone.
I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you.
You don't want to be in the unfriend zone. First, we unfriend the zone. But now all those other kind of like borderline unfriend zone guys start popping to the top. Your Justin Haley's, your Colos. Got to unfriend them too. So now we could take a look and say, all right, how much Larson, Taco, is too much Larson? Right? Larson's been great. Do I want to go over the field, under the field, or at field weight? Kyle Larson, 35% projection, been great with this package. Go a little over. Martin Truex, good driver, not starting quite as far back. Want to get some exposure in case he's leading the race. Kyle Busch just priced a little too low in this one. Get 30%. Hasn't been that great. Crash Dane is there. Jones, not my favorite. Some of these other turds coming in. So we're slowly adjusting. D. Ham. See, we're going to get a little more now that we're setting some limits. So as I set a limit, notice what's happening, by the way. We're turning it into a domination station tutorial. Let's see here. What did I do for Larson? 60% is too much. Is this year or for his career? Because Kyle Larson this year is a completely different driver / car / stud than he's been in the past. So I love Kyle Larson here. Maybe we go 45%. I'm going a little higher. Go a little above the field. What I don't love is Joey Logano. Now, Joey Logano also starting in the back, but you're paying. Joey Logano is much less of a dominator. I definitely don't want to go over field weight on him. Again, I mentioned Eric Jones. I kind of think Eric Jones may be a little overhyped here. So I'm going to start working some of these numbers. A lot of times, by the way, I really allow the ownership projection to sway what I'm doing. Now we're getting more Austin Cindric. There you go. D. Ham exploding. So every time you set a limit on a driver, something changes on another driver. Math. So you got to go through these one driver at a time. Each time I set a max limit on one, I try to see, all right, what happens next? Donnie Briscoe, he's not somebody I want to have a ton of, kind of keep it at field weight. Again, I'm doing that with a lot of these Turdley guys. Ricky Stenhouse. Yeah. Cole Custer. He's borderline and unfriend you. Where's Cole? Yeah, starting 10th. I don't love that. So as I go through each guy, I'm going to set up my maxes, and you're asking me where I'm getting them from. Usually, just I'm looking at the ownership projection, and then I'm adjusting based on that. Do I want to be above the field or below the field on this person? That's basically how I do it. Oh, that's Reddick's career. Okay. Reddick. Okay. I thought he was talking about Larson. Reddick, 1.5 top 10 rate, 40%. Top 15 rate, 60%. So you like Reddick is what you're saying, Taco. That sounds like what Taco's saying. Now let me see about Reddick here. The Taco notes. Hamlin core. Reddick, 4-star play. Cindric, 5-star. So Reddick finishes off overqualified as group as the cheapest, yet by far the best car of the cheap group. All he needs to do is hang on to the top 10 to be an optimal play. Yeah, that's right. He needs to hang on to. He is very cheap. All right, so Taco likes Reddick. There we go. Okay, that's good. Good news. Good info. Got the fade on some of these other guys. Like Reddick a little bit. Got you 4 stars. Eric Jones, 7,800. A little too spendy for me. That's the problem with Eric Jones. Core, Hamlin, Cash, GPP, not core on Kyle Larson. Very interesting. There we go. Let's go back to the Dom. I'm going to go with Taco on Reddick here a little bit. We'll raise it up. 28%. Give him a little exposure. A little too cheap. I like it. All right, Recchi, Stenhouse, Denny Hamlin. So see what ends up happening is as you make some limitations, all of a sudden Austin Cindric looks sexier and sexier. How much Austin Cindric, Taco? We like Bowman. starting to get this going how I like it. Anyway, that's going to do it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here unless there are other questions. This is a basic breakdown. As far as the settings for me, what I do with the Dom station is after I'm done making all of these type of adjustments where I figured out a lot of my exposures, I'm getting the drivers where I want. What's my approach? I'm going to, again, go very high on a lot of these turds because there's not that many of them. That's with Larson. So the risk with Larson is you pay all the way up and you wind up forcing too many turds into that lineup. I think if Larson leads the race or wins, it doesn't matter. All the Cindric, totally agree. Not many salary savers here, so we've got to do that. And the way I do it is I'm just trying to mix in. So these studs who can potentially dominate, Larson, Hamlin, even Kyle Busch, even Bowman, even down to the Chase Elliott's and the Blaney's of the world. We got to get some Blaney exposure. Harvick's. Going to try to mix them around. Make sure that I get a lot of different versions of lineups. Once I feel like my exposures are pretty spot on, what I'll do is I'll go to the randomization. I'll set this around 10%. And the reason I do that is just to make the lineups just mix up a little bit better. It's not too big of a deal. But again, once you've already set and controlled for a lot of your exposures, it's definitely something I like to do. I'll use like a 10% randomization. Make my final run. We good to go. So, guys, that's going to do it for the NASCAR Buschy McBusch. I also wanted to say, if it's called the Buschy McBusch, you got to have some Busch. Because it's called Buschy McBusch. Like, it just seems like, yeah, one of the Busch brothers is going to be in the fucking nuts. It has to be. Just because the name of the race. Predetermined. It's predetermined. After I said that, what did you guys all do to me?
Unfriend you.
Don't unfriend me.
I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you. I'd unfriend you.
You guys are brutal. You guys are brutal. My Facebook.
I'd unfriend you.
All because of the Buschy McBusch dad joke. You guys are harsh. All right. That's going to do it for this one. Good luck today in the race. Let's see helmets at the top. DFS Army helmets, as usual. When do we not win NASCAR? Never. That's what we do. Going to win this one also. Let's take it down. FanDuel, DraftKings. Good luck, everyone. I hope to see you at the top of the tournaments.